Oh, thank you everyone for taking time out of your Monday to come to the party. Those of us that are here, that means we're not on our summer break. Maybe not yet, right? It's coming, it's coming. But today, I've been fortunate enough for Sharon to invite me to speak about prompt engineering for Microsoft 365 Copilot. It's everybody's favorite word these days, Copilot. So we'll talk about it as we go through. I don't want to be, just talking at myself. So please feel free. Let me get the chat open here. I realize I haven't gotten the chat. Nobody's posted anything in chat. Hang on. Let's get that going. Okay. If we have never met before, my name is Joy Apple, four-time, eagerly hoping for a fifth-time renewal MVP. Been in this Microsoft space 18 years. Time flies when you're having fun. Totally a governance and AI nerd. I co-host Guardians of M365, Guardians of M365 Governance with Christian Buckley, Ragnar Heil. Stuff. I do things. I do stuff. We have a lot of fun. Okay, today we're going to talk about Copilot, search versus AI, prompt crafting, practical prompts. I literally built this session. I started it late last year and started throwing it out places to see if I actually had to build a deck. And then I did, because I was working with both Copilot, ChatGPT, and I was noticing things, right? We notice things, sharing is caring. So I thought, well, I'll throw out some things for sessions, see if anybody picks it up, wants to talk about it. And here we are today. So I hope you'll share as we go along as well. Okay, why the heck does prompt engineering matter anyway? Well, it's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Mostly because Copilot is here. Copilot is everywhere. Say it 3 times and it will appear, right? So this is the new hotness, as we all know, between Microsoft marketing, the world, the news, the clickbait, all the things. AI is here. And I don't want to be one of those doom is gloom, oh my gosh, click the headline kind of people. But this definitely is technology that we need to be up to date on, and we don't want to get left behind on. So knowing how to get the most out of it, absolutely important. So Copilot, yeah, it's everywhere. There's a Copilot for everything. We'll talk about that a little bit throughout our time together today. Bing is now Copilot, hashtag rebrand, right? Why does that matter? Why do I care? Even if I'm not willing to pay for a license myself for one of the AIs that's out there in the world, I may not have it at work yet. It doesn't mean you can't use it, because you can practice prompts. You can learn about prompts just using Copilot for Bing, right? It's a great way to start practicing, get up to speed. And you might be going, yeah, Joy, hey, old news, old news. That's fair. That's fair. But just things to notice when we're out there using Copilot or AI on pick your browser of choice. That the powerful thing about it is when I am searching on the interwebs, if I'm in Bing, okay, and I am in Bing, I drink the blue Kool-Aid. I've been drinking the blue Kool-Aid for a while. One of the nice things about being logged in to Bing as the work version of me, as you can see in the upper right of this image, there's a laser pointer somewhere right here, is I have access to Copilot chat here. I have access to work things through search here. So this really does open up a lot of great information and avenues to data for me. Just throwing that out there. Notice I asked a question. I said, hey, what are some tips for making my session more engaging when I'm at conferences? Notice it brought me a bulleted list of things, and every one of those has a reference where I can go back and read the article more in depth. Keep in mind, always, 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 just like when we're on Instagram or TikTok, if we're super cool, check the source. All right. So let's talk about one big thing first, search versus AI. A good friend of Jonathan, Sharon, and I, Jay Leask, he works at, what do they call it now? The Microsoft Innovation Hub. It used to be like, the big tech centers now. I can't remember what they used to call it because the rebrand game is strong at Microsoft. Um, he was doing a full day workshop, MTC, thank you, Jonathan, with a customer. And they were like, okay, but look, this is a lot of work. Why should I put so much time and effort into figuring out prompt engineering when I have search? Fair question. And you would think this would have been maybe a more early days question, but this was just maybe 3 months ago. Why should I put this much time and effort into it? What's the big deal? I think that's a great place to open up this conversation because search brings content to you, right? I used to teach classes on getting the most out of SharePoint search, which is now Microsoft search, right? So keywords, Boolean syntax query, all that stuff of how to put in the right requirement to bring back the files, the documents, maybe even the messages when search works in Outlook back that I need so I can go gather the information. And with search, the more discrete, the more limiting in what I put in, the more refined and scoped those results are going to be, right? So I put the keywords in and it brings me files, documents, links, pages. Awesome. But Copilot takes what I give it, my prompt, and it composes that data and that information into a consumable format. And I think the one thing that it's important to remember too, it will reference its sources. So I can go look, it gives you those little numbers. You see those referenced here in my screenshot. It will bring that in so I can then go make sure, okay, this report that Copilot is brought this data, it has composed it, it has put it in a consumable format for me. Was that from this year or was that 5-year-old information? Right? So, yes, they both action off the graph inside of Microsoft 365. They both will only bring us back data and information and links to content we already have access to. Neither Search nor Copilot will ever break permissions to bring you something. Those are important key things to remember. So, but big difference. Search is going to bring me a file, a list of files, a list of pages, a list of documents, whereas Copilot is going to consume all of that data and format it in more of an open way for me to just glance over, get the information I need, and go on about my day. Very nice. Very nice. Because who liked going through those Google results like page 2, page 3? Did anyone? I would love to see a show of hands. If we did a search in Microsoft or Google or Ask Jeeves, who ever went past page 2? Show of hands. Would you go click on page 3 to see the links that it's bringing back? No one is putting up their hands. Okay. See, that's telling right now. We don't want to have to look for this information. Would anyone even go to page 2? Ever? Okay, now I see you. So having that summary of information is so much more powerful. And it's meeting us where we are as users. Maybe page 2. Maybe. Thank you for being honest, Jonathan. All right. So let's talk about the power of Copilot. Since unlike search, Copilot understands our intent and the context of what we're providing to it. So we have a conversation with it. And as we're having this conversation, we can use Copilot to get the gist of what we're asking for with that intent and that context. We can have that ongoing conversation, just like I'm having a conversation with Brian or Gavin. We can dig into topics and pull out more thoughts, opinions, and perspectives. You can do that with Copilot as well. Summarize key ideas, key findings, get the main points out of big documents and big reports without having to dig into the minutia. being able to go in with customizations and say, hey, I'm looking for this specific kind of information can be very powerful inside of Copilot. Getting help with tasks, something search really can't do for me, but AI absolutely can. I can have Copilot suggest for me outlines for my presentations. I took my deck for this and put it into ChatGPT today just to suggest any ways I could make the data more consumable. And I'll bounce between a couple of different AIs because I just like to get the different input. And they're designed to be a little different. And I really enjoy those differences. With Copilot, this is the power of Copilot. You get that integration with Microsoft 365, right? There is a Copilot for everything practically. And if there's not, just stay tuned. There will be one very, very soon. And in this, what's our favorite? Our word of the year is agentic. In this agentic time, there's an agent that we can create to help us with very key specific things. So with Copilot being integrated into Microsoft 365, we are setting ourselves up for this enhanced level of proficiency and productivity in this era of AI. All right, cool. But I thought we were going to talk about prompting. You're right, we are. So let's talk about practical prompt crafting. I'm going to share with you examples, samples, successes, and maybe some frustrations that I've had with AI, and we'll knock those barriers down together. Okay, context. Context matters a lot with Copilot. Keeping in mind, like we said before, there's practically a Copilot for everything, and now we're starting to see specific purpose-built agents within these various Copilots. So I would approach writing a prompt for Word much differently than I would one for Teams or definitely for Excel, right? Because they're built to do specific things. Finding key information is going to be different. Setting ourselves up to interface with the various applications is going to be a little different. When we're crafting a prompt, and this pretty much can extend to any of the Copilots, to get the best response, there are going to be some certain elements that will always, always, always set us up for success when we're prompting. So here's an example of a prompt where I'm saying to please generate, and I do. I say please. Anybody else say please and thank you to their AIs? Okay, thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Jonathan gave the thumbs up. He's not committing to it. I see you. To generate 3 to 5 bullet points to prepare for a meeting with client XYZ. It's going to be on their brand campaign. I want to focus on emails and Teams chats since June. So I'm giving it a time frame, right? Please use simple language so I can get up to speed quickly. What this is a recipe for a prompt where I'm telling my AI of choice the goal, what I'm looking for it to do, the context, why I need it, who's involved. So don't look at my Teams chat and messages for project alpha when this is for client X, right? I'm giving it really good context here. I'm asking it what the information sources should be. In this example, communication. And then my expectation, how I need it to respond. When I'm working on a presentation, I would be asking it for a certain style, for certain themes, for image examples, right? Which would be very different than if I'm looking for a summary of communications. So I'm telling it how I want it to respond. I'm setting the stage for Copilot to know exactly what I need. And this doesn't just apply to Copilot. If you use ChatGPT, any other of the AIs out there, this 100% can apply. It does apply. So basically what we're doing is we're taking a boring generic, can I get that to play? This cursor. There he is. I use this GIF a lot in my work life. So I'm taking this from boring, plain, please list tomorrow's meetings, which it did, right? I'm taking that prompt And I'm saying, and is it more work? Yes. But once you get it down, copy it, keep it somewhere, paste it in the next time you need it. So now you see my recipe at play. Help me prepare. What do I need to do? Provide me a summary of all scheduled activities, attendees, meeting descriptions, and times that are on my calendar. This is what I need. This is why I need it. This is where to look for the data. Each meeting should be an entry in the table. That's my expectation. And my expectation extends to how I want that table to look. Boom, chakalaka. This just got better. This got a little bit more readable, a little bit more detailed, not just what, who, when, and where. I like this. Is anybody using prompts like this currently to kind of wrangle the crazy thing that can be our agenda most days, weeks, months? I see you, Sharon. I see you. Excellent. Give it a try. Give it a try. Challenge. Give it a try. And then once we see the notifications go out from Smarter Consulting and the user group, let us know on Twitter. Or, I'm sorry, what is it? X. Let us know, LinkedIn. What does your success look like? How has this helped you as you've gone about your day, going from just having to fight through your calendar to getting a nice table to kick off your day or your week? So some other examples of a basic prompt: summarize this Word document. And it will do that. It will 100% do that. I did find it interesting. Sharon, we had the Women in M365 meeting last week. Heather joined us, and she was talking about how she writes her documentation now to make sure the key things she wants people to get out of it show up in the Copilot summary. So that was actually a light bulb moment, because if people inside of Microsoft are going, you know what, this is an important document, but probably what people are really going to see is the Copilot summary. I need to tailor it for that. That means I probably need to start having a conversation with Copilot about how do I format my documentation so that the summary has what I feel are the most critical things people need to take away. So more to come on that later when I figure out how to do that. So go from a basic prompt to a good prompt by adding context, helping Copilot understand. And I understand this is like a word salad slide, but I'm hoping this is a resource for you that you can take back and kind of use as a reference in the future. Notice that prompt goes from it's fine to good, better, best, right? Because I'm layering in those elements of my recipe, context, data sources, and I'm setting those expectations for how I want the data to come back to me from Copilot. So productivity with Copilot. Let's see what we can dig into here. How are we doing so far? We good? All right, I trust you. Copilot. All right. Please summarize the last XYZ hours of a chat, summarizing emails, taking a Word document and turning it into a PowerPoint presentation. Sharon, I stole that one from you. All the different ways we can use Copilot to enhance our daily productivity. And Sharon, I have started doing that more. Fine, you were right. So let's see how these prompts can play into real life. So this was last fall. I had stepped away for the afternoon to go do probably doctor's appointments. I'm old, I'm broken down. So I came back and we have a chat, an all company chat at Orchestry that is absolute insanity. And it's a ton of fun, but that's where like the moment by moment updates in the company are coming from. And it's a little chaotic. Most of us keep it muted. Otherwise it's a constant distraction. It should be a community, but I'm working on that. When I came in, I was like, please summarize, very simple, very basic, just what I missed while I was gone. And I got this nice little rundown, but notice I almost cleaned these out, but I didn't. These little numbers here are where Copilot gave me the link to the exact chat. So I could click that, go to that chat. If I was like, wait a minute, Tyler did what? I could go read it, find out what's going on, not be left behind. This can be really, really good. You don't have to limit it to a specific chat. You can do that throughout all of your team's channels, group chats, all the things. Create a PowerPoint from a file. So this is a little video that we recorded internally of giving, I see you, Sharon, giving Copilot for PowerPoint a document and giving it some specific instructions for creating that presentation out of the document. There's the link to the document, going down to some additional information, and this is what it gave. Now, is it still going to need a little bit of work? Sure, I go in there. I could clean this up, maybe add some charts, some graphs, a little bit more visual interest. But I gave it a document. I set the expectations, probably cut down the start from scratch inertia by, I don't know, 50%. I now have something I can work with. And I don't know about you all, but it's much easier for me to edit something than to start from scratch. When I worked with the NASA crew years ago, we used to call it bring me a rock when you're trying to gather requirements. Like, well, what size of rock? What color rock? How heavy should the rock be? I don't know. I just know I need a rock. Bring me something, and then I'll know if I like it or not. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We're getting started much, much faster. Create a new Word document from scratch. I hate a blank page. I think that's one of the things I've loved the most about having AI assistants is I can just start a conversation and I will actually turn it on so I dictate. I dictate to Copilot. I dictate on my phone. When I'm using ChatGPT, I use the microphone and I talk to it. Probably because I'm dyslexic, so that just helps me get over that extra challenge of words having to be, spelled correctly and in the right order. So I can come in, give Copilot, hey, I need to create a 10-page marketing plan for the Death Star because you can't do a presentation without a Star Wars reference. I'm telling it what I need, how I need it to be. And this was super fun. This is what it came up with. Now, is it perfect? I don't know. I don't build marketing plans, but I think it's pretty darn good. And it's now given me something that I can sit down with my team and go, okay, how are we doing? Does this meet our need? Is this logical? Where can we refine this? How can we make it better? With much less effort. I didn't even have to go find a template because it knows the basic requirements for SWOT analysis, right? It's pretty darn cool. I think that's pretty darn cool. Last year, so not this M365 conference in Vegas, but the year before it was in Orlando. That was hot and humid, I'm just telling you. But I was talking with a guy who has used Copilot. At that point, he'd been using it for about 6 months. And he had taken his RFP time down from about 10 days to 4, just with early days of Copilot, because he was using the ability for Copilot to understand formatting, needs, requirements, these basic types of document, looking at the examples of the ones he had created in the past and getting him started faster. That's significant. Next up on our handy dandy agenda is summarizing a long email. Curious, does anyone that's joined us today ever find themselves the victim of an email thread that is way, way too long and we don't even know why we're there? See you, Jesse, right? We don't want to be there. We don't know why we're there. Oh my gosh, just get me out of it. Guess what? Copilot is your new BFF, TLDR for the win. So here, basically what we did is we said, hey, Copilot, could you give me a summary of this ridiculous, and I talk to Copilot like this. I'm like, I don't like that I'm part of this and I don't really understand why I need to be here. Could you please go through? And guess what? That is context that Copilot will use to fulfill the request that I'm giving it through my prompt. So that's the prompt. Could you please do this? And it says, yep, Sure will. Also, could you let me know if I've been voluntold to do anything? Is there an expectation that I need to perform a task, provide documentation, set up a meeting, anything? And it will help you do that. Copilot for the win. Meeting recaps are also magical. I'm trying so hard, and I've not been able to figure out a way to actually get out of meetings yet. I'm working on it. But sometimes there might be like a company meeting that I really wish I could have gone to, but I couldn't because I had to go do other things. Being able to go back, do that recap, ask for what are the action items that came out of this? What were the highlights? Did the CEO say anything? If so, could you give me a recap focused on what the CEO said during the meeting? All those things. If there are key players or key teammates that are present in meetings that for one reason or another you couldn't or didn't want to go to, Copilot can help you make sure you're staying up to date, either to fulfill anything you were voluntold for or to support those team members that were there and maybe got the task as they showed up, right? Taming messages, we've talked about this already, but it definitely is one of my favorite things that I use it for. Last year, at the end of the year, I was out of the office for 2 solid weeks. I'd never been away from work for that long. And when I got back in, hey, Copilot, help me catch up. Are there any emails that are expecting a reply from me? Help me prioritize those. Are there action items? Are there things my team is dependent on that I need to focus on before I move on, with life? It can help you do that. Here's the output from that prompt that I had on the previous slide. Come in. And if I was at mentioned specifically in that prompt, I asked it to bold the message. So come in. Hey, this one, I was at mentioned. The date of reference, very important. And a summary. Any action items. What do I need to do to follow up? Right? Very nice. And you can tell this was pre-Vegas. So I now have a table. Instead of having to dig through X number of emails and chat messages, I can just work off this table. It wasn't a specifically or particularly short table, but that's way better than the inbox that was waiting for me. So I can live with that. Brett Jonathan, limericks for the win. Practical prompting inside of Copilot for Microsoft 365. Or is it Microsoft 365 Copilot or Copilot for Word or Copilot for Excel or. So tips for prompting. I have found much better success if I give it the persona to work with that may not be new information for you. It might be, but the first time I heard that, I was like, okay, sure. But it would know to do that anyway, right? It makes a difference. If I ask it to respond with the role of an IT administrator when I'm asking for help putting together a document, I'm going to get a different tone. I'm going to get different emphasis in that document than I would if I just went and started banging it out. And I have found great, great, great success in asking Copilot how to make my prompt better. So I'll give it something and maybe I'm busy, so I'm not doing the whole recipe. I'm like, whatever, just get me started. Then go back and go, you know what? I was really needing more information along this lines or more detail or less detail here. How can I improve this? How can we work together? And then just keep refining on top of that. If you don't succeed, try again. Try again, but try again with the input of the tool because it will definitely help you and guide you. I got super frustrated. So I use ChatGPT for my image creation, just like it better. And I kept getting frustrated because the left edges kept getting cut off. So I was like, dude, I guess, I don't know. But that day it was a dude. I was like, dude, every time you give me an image with the border, it is cut off on the left. I'm not seeing the full thing. What's going on? And it was like, oh, to ensure this doesn't happen, do these things. This is why it's happening. This is how you can avoid it. Magic. And it's sad that I had to get to the point of absolute frustration before I stopped to go, hi, ChatGPT, Could you please help me make sure that this doesn't happen? And I started feeding back the images that were messed up for reference, and we got to the bottom of it. Pretty darn nice. Be specific when you're working with AI. I would say especially that might be more important, more pertinent to Copilot than some of the other AIs. It is very interesting, and they mentioned this in Vegas at one of the keynotes, that Copilot is designed to be very succinct, very short. If you've ever done the same prompt in Copilot and then something like ChatGPT, you're going to get a long answer. It's going to feel more personal. There's going to be a lot of words. And I remember from back in my school days, if the answer is too long, it can't be wrong. And we kind of tend to feel that way with ChatGPT. It's telling me this lovely story. It's very affirming. It's going to compliment me. Oh, I love it so much. And you people go, why does Copilot just says, here's your answer, bye. I'm busy. Other things to do. You asked a question, here's your answer, peace out. But aren't we kind of here for that? I don't really need a long affirming story from Copilot to help me extract data out of an Excel spreadsheet. I just need my answer and I'm going to go on with my day. So be specific. If you have examples of outcome, provide that. Refine the prompt. Ask for guidance. Keep working on it. You'll get there. And the more you refine, the faster you'll be the next time. So if it feels tedious at first, but it does just keep getting better and better and better. Ask it for examples. These are examples of prompts that I have used for Outlook, Planner, Word, all the things. I basically have this here as a resource slide. If you find it useful, you can go bring this into your day by day. Outlook, I use these quite a bit. I'm not in OneNote hardly ever. Loop is my OneNote these days. Does it do all the things that OneNote does? No, but it does enough for me. But I've used similar prompts from this just with Copilot for M365. Like, hey, help me brainstorm on some things. Look in these areas. Help me come up with some content. Works beautifully, beautifully, beautifully. But again, we start adding on those recipes, that context. We start advancing the customizations. You're going to get even better. Even though we were specific, now we're bringing in more details and you're going to get much better output. All right, bonus tip. I was working on some success metrics. My role at Orchestry is I'm Director of Success and Enablement. I just had to think about that for a minute. It's a new role. But I was going to Copilot because it has access to all of our stuff, to Confluence documentation, presentations, right? Or chats, all the things. And I was asking it to help me come up with metrics that we can use to define success and to guide our customers to specific business outcomes using our tool, right? And I was doing this in one really long chat. And we've got primary feature sets inside of the tool, right? So we were going to look at lifecycle management, at templated provisioning, at guest management, and get these metrics for each one. This particular chat, notice I've got it highlighted in blue for Orchestry's templated provisioning, right? Business outcomes for the features and functionality started off great, 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 great. But then we got through setup and configuration. We got into business outcomes. Notice here, detailed reports on tenant health and performance. That has nothing to do with templated provision. That was the health checks I've been talking about with it before. Snooze and resolve recommendations. Yeah, that is not a business outcome for provisioning teams, right? That was the previous conversation. We had moved on. I had moved on. Copilot hadn't. So I was seeing those topics bleed through. So I have found if you're starting to do more complex things or working on big volumes of documentation, You may find it's best to stop in one chat and start a new chat when you're ready to move on to that other topic. Otherwise, you will kind of get these bleed throughs. But it's kind of part of, I guess it's like talking to your best friend that has ADHD and we're like, oh yeah, by the way, this thing. It's kind of, I feel like what was going on there. But start a new chat, move on, start a new chat, keep going. The responses are much cleaner because you're working in a different container. Basically, that's how I think about it. All right. Trucking on along just for fun. Now, I don't have the output of these with me, but I thought I would share them. Maybe you guys could do these while we're here and we can talk about it because we'll have a little bit of time left over. You can also have fun with ChatGPT or Copilot, all the AIs. This would be best to use Copilot for because Copilot runs on the graph, right? Copilot knows who you work with the most, how your tones of emails and chat communication goes. So this is asking Copilot, right, to go look at the last 2 weeks, use data to create a personal brand voice document, blah, blah, blah. What Star Wars character would represent my style of work? A Star Wars character friend group based on recent interactions. Here I gave like my top 5 collaborators, right? Give them different types of Star Wars characters, strengths and weaknesses. This is a ton of fun. And I've redone it a couple of times over the last, I don't know, 6 months. And it changes because your projects change and your focus of your work changes. Maybe, Bob irritated you last week, so your tone hasn't been quite so nice. So that might be your rival turned friend or vice versa. I don't know. It could get very dramatic. Prompts like this, and there's great resources out there, can help you introduce the concept of prompt engineering to your user base. If you know you've got to start doing training or this or that, put some things out there like this that are fun. There's no pressure. Let people play with it and experiment with the requirements because you'll notice I am telling it based on the above analysis. I'm asking it to do a thing first. I'm telling it where to work, telling it what to look at. I'm telling it what resources and what my expectations are. I'm using those good prompt engineering recipes. And it starts to build a habit, again, in a no pressure, fun kind of way. Maybe you could start a Viva Engage community for Copilot adoption. Talk about prompt engineering. I've got this one in the slide deck, and I will be giving the link to Sharon. And I've got one for Marvel too. You could change it up to be DC as well. We don't judge here, but same kind of thing, right? And have some fun with your team. Have some fun with training and see what kind of outputs come out of these things. And once they start taking the fun stuff, it's easier and easier to apply it to the actual work stuff. All right. Any questions, observations, input, experience anyone wants to share? All right. I'm going to pop my contact info up on the screen. If we're not connected, I hope we get connected after this. You can never have a network that's too big.